I cashed out my 401k. I took that and I told the boss I'm quitting. I put my 2 weeks notice in. He was really big on make sure you work your last 2 weeks because he kind of had an idea I was going to be back within a year. I knew I was done. I cashed that out and I hit real estate as hard as possible.
What's up, 0 to 100 family? Welcome to another podcast episode. I am here with my favorite co-host, Travis Dillard. I call him my favorite because Mitch is not
No,
here.
I'm just your favorite.
Okay,
Period.
okay, we'll see.
One sentence.
But this podcast is not about Travis Dillard. This podcast is all about how to scale your real estate portfolio to achieve not just financial freedom, but time freedom. And our guest today has done just that. Today's guest, Mr. Gus Ofili, a high-performing real estate agent who has sold over 400 homes before shifting his focus to building long-term wealth through real estate investing. Since 2020, he's replaced his commission income with cash flow from 62 rental doors, totaling a $7 million real estate portfolio. Gus is living proof that the grind of sales can be traded for financial freedom through buy and hold real estate. Gus, welcome to the 0 to 100 podcast show.
Hey guys, thanks for having me. I'm kind of amped up. You kind of said some things, so hopefully I can deliver with some info today.
In your bio, I love that you've transitioned from real estate sales to buy and hold cash flow real estate. I think a lot of people get into real estate. They want financial freedom. They want to become investors, but oftentimes they get into something real estate related that doesn't actually turn into financial freedom, time freedom. And there's a lot of real estate agents, brokers that do not own any real estate investments themselves. So let's get into your story. Let's start like pre-real estate. What were you doing before real estate, even before real estate sales?
So I'm originally born and raised in Connecticut, from a city where kids like myself get into bad things. And my parents wanted me to move out. And one of the places that they said that would help me as far as my college education was the state of Maine. So I ended up moving to Bangor, Maine. I went to a school. I had no clue. It was like a whole different world. And I like this podcast because people can be transparent. So that's what I'm going to go ahead and do. I was the only brother that went to the school. So with me being the only brother, I'm like, what kind of world is this? Because where I'm from, it's a mix of people. You know what I mean? Granted, I went to private school, but after I left private school in high school, I go to the Y, the Boys and Girls Club. It's a mix of people. So coming up here, it was like, okay, I'm a outcast, or so I thought I was an outcast. How do I fit in here? So I ended up meeting great friends, and their mind state as far as friends I met up here compared to friends back home was day and night. Now, granted, we're in college, so they're talking about their future. So I'm like, okay, you know, it's more than just partying. What's going on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday? A lot what's going on now is after we're done with school, what's the plan? What kind of job we're going to be focusing on? So I'm like, okay, a job. Now, remind you, my father is an entrepreneur. My brother is an entrepreneur. So I'm thinking, I don't even know what I'm doing here, but a job sounds cool. So after I ended up graduating, I started working for a Bank of America. So maybe that keeps everyone happy. My parents are happy. I got a job. I'm happy. I got a job. My peers, they got maybe $80,000 jobs or whatever it may be. I got a job now, so I can speak to that. You know, I'm not in the circle left behind. So as soon as I get in the job, and I got in the entry level. So the big thing for me when I was in college, I'm talking to people my age. As soon as you're done with college, now I'm having interviews where I'm talking to adults, like real adults, going through real life. They got kids, you know, whole family and all that. So during the interviews, I'm getting scared. I'm not saying anything. My buddy's like, bro, I just heard of the interview. They said you were shy. You're not even shy. I was like, yo, bro, I don't know. I was like, I was talking to an adult.
Gus, speak.
Yeah, I was talking to an adult. I was like, I felt weird and awkward. Like I didn't know how to speak to them. So what I figured out is I'm going to get in at the entry level and I'm going to bust my ass to be able to get to the point where I needed to get. And that's what I did. I got in at Bank of America. I ended up being there for 7.5 years. Got in, I went berserk. And once they gave me the green light to, we think you're the future of the company, I just put time and effort. Even on days off, I would go in because I wanted my input on that company. But as we later found out, you don't own that company. You're nowhere near ownership. So that's when I started getting hints that working for myself would be beneficial.
Hey, Gus, rewind real fast. So you moved to Maine. Were you in middle school?
No, right after high school.
Okay. So you moved it to Maine. You went to school. And what was your job at Bank of America? Was it a sales role?
Yeah. So people would call in and they were just looking to make a payment on their credit card or ask like regular customer service stuff. Our job was to get them from whatever they were looking to do and make them open a new credit card or make them do a balance transfer to pay other balances off or open a new credit card to pay other balances off. So it's basically to produce revenue for the company.
Got it.
Was that a natural environment for you to salespeople? Someone called, they just want to make a payment. Did that feel natural, or was that something you had to get trained on?
I was the most comfortable I've ever been in my life. And the reason why is that because my dad owned, like I said, he was an entrepreneur. He owned an insurance company. So in middle school and high school, when school's over for the summer, everyone's getting to have fun. Guess what I'm doing? I'm working with my father. Now, at that point, I'm talking to adults, but it's adults. And once again, I'm not trying to push this narrative, but this is honestly how I feel. There was adults that look like me. So the conversation is I could jump to basketball and we're talking about that. Now I could slide in. Now we're talking about sales. So it was a little bit different. So I used to work for him. He used to ring me out. If I'm not talking to every single person that goes through that door, finding what they want, putting them in a position, whether it's me finding out they need car insurance, passing it on to him. He used to do life insurance also. So it would be like this. They would come through the front door. I would be the first guy they meet. Why are you here? We figure that out. You're here for a car insurance quote. Now, this is really before kind of the internet took off. So they used to write all their information down, what kind of car it was, things along those lines. I would take that. I would put into all four of our systems. Once we put it into all four of the systems, it would generate the best quote. We get the best quote. I would talk to him about the quote, talk about the benefits of the quote compared to what the others were. Once they were ready to go, I pass it along to my father. My father closes the deal. Then he tries to get him to do life insurance. That's how it was all day, every day. And if I wasn't doing those things, I had bigger problems at home because this was old school parenting. No, you're going to your room. This is other things that would happen.
Sure. So it sounds like working with your dad and then going over to Bank of America and working in sales. You said you were there 7.5 years, but at some point you realized, hey, I don't own Bank of America. And like Travis likes to say, you're really just a line item on someone else's balance sheet, on a profit and loss statement, right? So I'm curious, like, when did your eyes open to that? And you're like, wait a minute, I need to shift from being an employee to actually owning my business, owning my life. Like, what was that transition like?
Yeah. So when I walked into Bank of America and I said, I'm going in entry level. So I'm going balls to the wall. I ended up being year 3. I was the 3rd highest sales rep throughout the country.
Damn, that's good, man. Bank of America is massive.
Yes.
That's no small feat. You must be a selling machine.
Well, as we go deeper into the story, you'll find out how I am. But that 3rd year, I'm a monster year. Then I'm looking to get into management. So they put me in a position where you're a manager, but you're not a full-fledged one. So you're kind of like a fill-in. People would be out on leave, whether someone's pregnant or whatever it may be. I would fill in for their team. Now, this is when I started seeing light that it's not about who works the hardest. It's about who fits in these circles of a team aspect of things to push everything forward. And I got a real awakening that I didn't fit in those teams. When everyone was like, Gus, we're going here after. I don't want to do that. You guys are my opposition. I want to focus on what I'm doing. This mentality, like while you're out there partying or having fun, I'm going to focus on how I'm going to beat you with this team so I can get to that next level. That's my mentality. And it's always been my mentality since I was little. Now as an adult, I'm really understanding who I am and how I think. And I don't fit in circles. And when you don't fit in circles, you become the outcast. And when you become the outcast, you become the enemy. So now that these other managers, they're going to the bigger boss, letting them know, hey, yeah, Gus might be good at his job, but he's rude, or Gus is this, or Gus is that. I can't tell you the things they were saying behind my back. That through my eyes, I was busting ass. And my employees that love me, they would rave and send emails to the whole floor about what we're doing as a team. So in my eyes, it looked like I was winning.
So you didn't play office politics is what you're saying.
Correct. I guess I'm the worst at that.
When you say that, are you saying that, because I always say, Kiyosaki says this, Robert Kiyosaki, and business and investing is a team sport. And we have investors, we have wholesalers and brokers and insurance. Like it does take a tribe to build a real estate portfolio of different specialties. Are you saying that at Bank of America, it wasn't really like, I didn't fit in the team because I don't fit into a collaborative environment? Or was it just like bullshit office politics that you didn't want any part of and you wanted to drive production forward?
Yes. Like people they would say were super talented. I would get around them like, this person not even really talented. Yeah, like they're not even good at what they do. Like
I say that about Mitch, my co-host, every day. I'm like, what?
so I'm like, they only got this position because they're married to someone else. And when I can't get over that, roadblocks start getting in front of me. And it makes things difficult for me to be like, yeah, I respect this person. So I'm going to hear out what they say. I'm going to do things that I normally wouldn't do. When I'm hearing a lot of BS and I'm seeing a lot of BS, it's hard for me to put all the things together.
Well, and I've been out of corporate America. I mean, I was in the military. That's kind of my last corporate America job many, many years ago. But I think you're right. There's two different types of teams. There's people that are all driving. They're in the boat. They're rowing in the same direction. They're driving for the same outcome. They're collaborative. They're bouncing ideas off each other. They're all A players. A players want to be in the boat with A players. And then you've got office politics, which is who's kissing whose ass, who's acting busy, who's in the right circles to get the promotions. You mentioned nepotism, which isn't productivity. That's typical middle management, corporate bullshit, corporate America. And that's just like, we're all busy and we're all moving around a lot, but we're accomplishing nothing. And it sounds like that might be what you're talking about here.
So Gus, at some point you said you had enough and you transitioned into real estate. Let's talk about that.
Yeah. So my brother said, hey, Gus, because, you know, you get a 3% or 4% raise, you're amped. You're like, yeah. My brother's an entrepreneur. I'm telling them
I just barely beat inflation.
Yes. Yeah. So I'm telling my brother, yeah, I just got a 3% raise. I'm trying to like poke my chest out a little bit. He's like, yeah. So what? You're making what? 70,000 now? How much is the bank making off of you? How much are you making for the bank? How much percentage are you getting off of that? It's like, wow, you're a dick. Like, you know what I mean? I'm like, whatever. But that built on as far as my thinking. And then once the managers were like trying to sabotage me, I did 3 interviews. I didn't get that lead role. And that was kind of the norm too. So it took people quite a bit of times to do interviews to get the job. So when I didn't get it, I took it in a whole different way. I'm like, hey, no way. No one here is better than me. So I got one phone call. This was the last straw. I got a phone call. It was a lady. She lived in Oklahoma and she was living off of Social Security and retirement. And when I was looking at her profile, I was like, damn, so this lady lived her whole life to live off of this amount of money and she can barely make any other moves. Like she's behind in our credit card and she can't really do anything. We had to do like programs to get her in like assistant programs. So I was like, you know what? Screw this. And what I did is I ended up talking to my brother-in-law. He owns a big title company in our state. And I was like, hey, my wife's been telling me you told her about real estate. I'm interested in it. I want to talk some more about it. So what he did is he introduced me to a whole bunch of real estate brokerages and I spoke to the brokers and I'm still working at Bank of America at this time. I asked the brokers a key question. I want to talk to someone who's been doing this job for a year and I want to pick their brain. As soon as I spoke to those people, I'm competitive. I read people fairly well. Like, what? They're doing the job? Now I'm thinking real estate agents are these multi-talented people. And I'm asking them, how much you make last year? Oh, 60,000. You made 60,000? Oh, this is my lane. So that's when I started taking my tests. I took the class. So I was going to do my primary job and then be a real estate agent on the side. And then if I become successful as a real estate agent, I was going to do that full time. My instructor, he was super cool. He wasn't always by the book. He was tell his stories. And that's why I love this class. And he said, if you're going to do this real estate agent thing, I would recommend and do it full time because if you get a phone call and you can't pick up that phone call, they're just going to move on to the next person. Then I'm like, damn, am I going to be a half-ass real estate agent? So I'm like, okay, this is the fork in the road, Gus. You're 32 years old. What are you going to go ahead and do? Are you going to continue doing this job, which you're miserable, you don't like where you work, or are you going to take on something where sky's the limit and you could put all your effort into? And so what I did is I cashed out my 401k. I took that. And I told the boss I'm quitting. I put my 2 weeks notice in. He was really big on make sure you work your last 2 weeks because he kind of had an idea I was going to be back within a year. I knew I was done. I cashed that out and I hit real estate as hard as possible as an agent. So that was my shift into that.
I've heard that actually. My wife's a broker and you either got to go all in because there's a lot of half-assers out there that really aren't doing themselves an injustice along with their clients. So sometimes you have to just kind of burn the bridges, right? You have to burn the boats, like Mitch says, and jump and go. Good on you for that. So what happened after that? You get out, tell us about that first day. You turn your notice in, you're out of corporate America. They've made a lot of money off of you and you're done with that role. By the way, when you're a real estate agent building a client base, like you might be a single man, company essentially, but you are building equity in something that you own. You're building a reputation, you're building a brand, you're building repeat business. Whereas when you work for, and we always say this, when you're working for another company, they're leveraging you and they're getting rich off of you and they're delivering shareholder value off of you. So tell me about that first day. You quit, you roll in, I guess, to an office at the real estate brokerage. You pick up the phone. Like, what does that look like? What are you feeling? Like, what's going through your head?
I wish that was the first day after I quit, but when I was done after my 2 weeks, I wasn't even an agent yet because I didn't pass my test.
So you're in a hole.
Yeah. So before then, and I think this is important. So I had a girlfriend, she's my wife now at the time, and she was real behind me as far as everything I was talking about, what I wanted to do. So if she wasn't there, I don't know if everything would have worked out how it did. She owned a condo. I lived in an apartment, and I said, if we're doing this, we're putting everything together. So I ended up moving with her. So that cut some expenses out. Now I cashed out my 401k. I'm kind of somewhat living off of that. I'm not passing my test. The first time I took the test, I thought I could just go in there and pass. I'm looking at questions. I don't even know. I'm doing what I did with the SATs. I'm just going A, B, C, D and just picking one, whatever.
Hey,
until I had to really.
That's what I did on the SAT.
I didn't even take it. I slept in.
I was trying not to take it. I was like cutting weight for a wrestling tournament and I literally went A, B, C, D, A, B. Anyway.
So I really had to clamp down. I was like, yo, Gus, you really got to study. I would tell other stories, but I don't think I should be telling that on the air. But I really got to focus in and I got to study. Then I ended up studying. So it was 4 months after when I got my license. So it wasn't just, I jumped into real estate. Now within that 4 months, I'm going to each brokerage. Everyone thinks I'm going with them. You know, people are not going to like this story where I'm at because it's going to sound rude, but I'm trying to get the best situation possible with each one. So one brokerage is seeing me in another photo with the other brokerage. Like, Gus, what's going on here? I was like, oh no, they just invited me. This was all planned. I wanted to walk into the best scenario. The best scenario was for me was to jump on having mentors. I can hustle my ass off. The paperwork and all that stuff, I don't know that. So I need someone to take time out to be able to answer all my questions, show me how to do the paperwork. That's all I need from you. Everything else I know how to do. So I was able to go with the brokerage I'm currently right now. They set me up in that situation, gave me a great split. I'm working with someone else. They're answering all my questions. And that's how we got started at the brokerage.
So what are you doing to get your business? Like, what do you do? Day one, you pick up the phone, start calling expired listings, knocking on doors. Like, what does that look like?
So this was end of 2018. I'm hitting social media the hardest. My thinking, and I remember having a dinner before I officially joined on with a broker. She was like, okay, so yeah, cold calling, door knocking. She's giving me all the old school stuff. I'm like, hey, Julie, like what I'm seeing is people wake up, they jump on their phones. And I didn't even have Instagram at this time. Instagram got introduced to me 3 years ago. So I didn't even know that world even exists. I just knew up here, Facebook is our predominantly our social media. So I'm like, I'm hitting social media hard. I'm going to make videos. I'm going to do funny skits, stuff like that. And she was like, oh, yeah, but you want to make sure you're doing this, that, and the third. I was like, yeah, I'm going to do that shit too, but I'm going to do this. So I started doing videos and putting money behind my videos with sponsor ads. So I wasn't the confident guy you see here. I was more the timid guy because I know when you're overly confident at the beginning, people don't really like that. But if it looks like you're a timid individual and you just want to work hard and that's what people like, that's what they want to get behind and champion. And that's what I did. I put that money I saved up, put the money behind the videos. That wasn't the only thing. I made sure I went to every single broker in the office. Hey, whatever I could do. I don't care if you were the biggest broker or the smallest broker, whatever I could do to help open houses, take over clients that you don't want, things along those lines. And then the last thing I think I did that helped me within my brokerage, one agent had a difficult client and they were like, Gus, he's super difficult to deal with. If you sell the place, just give us 15%. When I said this guy was difficult, he was difficult. He was cussing me out every other day and it was stressful, but I got the job done. And I got a job done because I put his place on Facebook Marketplace. Some guy just came in and he got money off a lawsuit. So we were able to do a portfolio loan. It was a mobile home on like 20 acres of land in this town that no one really buys stuff, but I was able to go ahead and get it done. Instead of giving them 15% back, I was like, okay, I'm going to make a splash because I want everyone else in the office to fuck with me. I gave them 40% instead. And now once they got that 40%, they started telling everyone in the office. Now everyone in the office is like, oh, Gus, we heard you did this. Now they're trusting me more with their business that they don't want or buyers that they don't want. Now with that, I'm able to show closings. Now I'm going to the internet because now before I was doing funny skits or I was like talking about what's going on in the market. Once you start showing closings, now the people that actually know you want to use you as an agent. Before I'm meeting random people and I'm doing real estate with them. Now when people that actually know you, because I went to college up here, they are invested in you. Now that's what a whole bunch of other business is going to come your way. And that's how I started off my business.
I love this. You really thought outside the box. You executed. I mean, shit, you quit your job and then you had this, oh, wow, it's not as easy to just pass this test like I thought. And you had 4 months. I'm sure during that 4 months, there was probably some mixed feelings of, I mean, what were you feeling? I mean, kind of going back to those 4 months, like from a mindset standpoint, you'd quit your job and it wasn't just like the next day, all of a sudden you were working. Were you like, hey, oh, well, I'm going to make this shit happen? Or were you like, oh man, what did I just do?
I weigh like 175. And when I get depressed, I just eat. As much as that doesn't sound cool or is the truth, I would eat. I would be depressed all the time and it rocked our relationship. I'm a very proud man and I believe as a man, you should be providing for your household. I'm in a situation where I'm living in my girlfriend's place. Every day I got to wake up. This isn't, as much as she's telling me this is our place, it's not our place. And I have to deal with that. I have to deal with, I'm not an agent yet. Or even when at the beginning of being an agent, I didn't get my deal until like 2-3 months after. I went from 175 to like 240 in that span of time because depression settled in and I'm starting to second guess myself. Am I that good? You start psyching your own self out. So yes, maybe when I told the story, I overlooked that part, but that part was a crucial part of finding who I was to be able to go ahead and reach those goals that I'm reaching now.
I bet, because you want to go hunt, kill, provide, and you're kind of like, oh shit. But there had to have been some motivation behind that too, because you dug yourself out of that hole and you went for it. And then I'm really impressed with how untraditionally, I mean, you started making videos early on, right as you became an agent. You were doing all the untraditional stuff. You gave a 40% split because you knew by making that splash, it would cause some chatter. Those early videos you were putting online, were you just documenting your journey?
People would enjoy watching. They like the story when you go from zero to something. So if I started showing them the early on of, what I'm doing, they're going to be like, oh, it's nice. I seen Gus. I wish him the best.
People like to root for the underdog.
Yes. And then they start seeing the progression go on. We may talk about this after, but they see the progression. And once you get to a role, they start hating you. And then you start going down. But that's a whole different story.
So then you did your first deal, but you've sold what, over 400 homes to date. So like, talk about the scale. I mean, I want to get into the investment side. I mean, I get asked a lot like, hey, I want to invest in real estate. Should I become an agent? Should I become a broker? I've never been a licensed agent. I very consciously chose not to be. I really wanted to differentiate myself as, hey, I'm an investor. I'm not an agent. But it sounds like you built up some decent income as an agent before you switched over to the investment side. So kind of walk us through that journey. You sold your first property, but you scaled the agent side before transitioning to the investment side. I'm kind of curious about that.
I feel like if anything you're going to be successful at, you got to love it. So I love my wife with all my heart to make sure our relationship works in the long term. So whatever I feel you do, you have to have passion for it. Now, when I became an agent, I had passion for it. No kids at the time, morning till night, being a real estate agent.
Hunting and killing, the thrill, the close, man. I was in sales. I loved it.
It's as good as some other 3-letter words. You know what I mean? As far as when you go ahead and get those things accomplished. So,
Gus, what are you talking about? Elaborate.
I'll let you guys fill in the blanks. And another thing, agents, they tell you, don't use Zillow. And I'm like, okay, but if I'm not using it, someone else is using it. So I'm like, you know what? Fuck that. I'm using Zillow. So my whole brokerage is telling me, don't use Zillow. So I strategize, where I'm putting my money at. These are people I never would have met if I didn't use Zillow.
Wouldn't we all be in a much worse situation if we listened to all the people around us with all their bullshit advice throughout our life? I go back and think about all the time people gave me advice that don't do that, don't start a company, don't buy your first house. I'm like, thank God I didn't listen to 90% of these people that are all grinding away in a W-2 job. Not bad, not good. Just like I wouldn't be where I'm at today. Sorry, I interrupted, but I just had to.
I love it. I love it. Gus, you seem like the kind of guy, if someone's like, hey, Gus, don't do this. If it feels right to you, you're like, I'm going to go do that anyway.
But I'll take people's opinions, though. So I don't want to make it seem people give me opinions and I don't listen to it. I just gotta, okay, you're telling me no. Why are you telling me no? Oh, because Zillow's going to take over the world and da-da-da. Well, if I'm going to get paid in the long term with them, fuck it, I'm going with them. So I ended up, that added on. So I'll fast forward. First year, 50 houses sold in 2019. I got Rookie of the Year of ERA, the franchise. The ceremony was in 2020, and that's when COVID happened. So I didn't really get a chance to get that award in front of the audience, but whatever. Second year, 2020, 71. This is the COVID year. When things were shutting down, people like to network, go out, party, and that's how a lot of deals are made. Like I said, I don't do that. I don't work well in circles. So when COVID happened, I feel like if you were an introvert, you were flourishing. Because none of this shit really bothered me. Like, staying home? Okay, I like staying home. What is people doing at home? They're on the internet. So all the thing I got to do is throw my mask on. We at showings, and I'm killing it. 71 sold in 2020. Now, the third year, 2021, was my big year. 107 houses sold that year. The year after that, 98. So I'm on a roll. So I'm seeing all this money coming in. At the beginning of my career, I would work investors. I'd be like, yeah, I'm a real estate agent, investor friendly. I was lying. I ain't know. I watched Bigger Pockets. That's the only thing my investment knowledge was. I was just trying to get them.
Can you imagine how much better you'd be today if 0 to 100 was on the air back then? My gosh, that'd be.
I would have sold 200. But
but you knew investors bought more than just one property. So like you were trying to target investors. I get it.
Work smarter, not harder.
Correct. Yeah. So when I'm meeting these guys, they could tell he doesn't know shit. But the thing they do know, when they call, Gus, this just hit the market, I need to go see it. Boom, we're booking it as soon as possible. And if I'm not able to be there, we're going to make a way for you to be able to see it. Let me put it that way. So with that, they love me off of the strength of that. So that's how they were using me. In return, wait a minute. So he brought this place for, I'm sitting at the closing. He brought this place for $35,000. I listed it for $180. Hey, how much did you put into this? Oh, 50. What the hell?
I felt good about myself this morning. I thought I was doing pretty good. Now I don't.
You're like, I made a good commission, but what did this guy just make? And
I feel like as a businessman, you're going to be aware of stuff like that going across your table. So I'm seeing that. I'm like, oh, what kind of game is this? I'm listening to Bigger Pockets. I understand that. That's eventually the goal. But when it's right there in front of you and you're meeting the people, I think it's a whole different thing. So I'm learning about how to buy properties, what they do with the properties, how they flip it. I'm learning when they're buying multi-units, I'm representing the buyer on a multi-unit. I'm getting the P&L. To me, it just looked like a whole bunch of numbers on there. I pass it on to him and I ask him questions. So, how do you break this down? And he's breaking it down for me. And with the rents, you could do this, you could do that. And I'm like, okay, so you'll get like what, $2,500 a month? And he was like, yeah, like $2,500 a month. That's like a small sale for me. But if you do 10 buildings like this, that's 25,000. I'm like, every month automatically? I'm like, all right. So I'm making a shit ton of money. And I always got this thing in the back of my head. When things are too good, they probably are. So I'm thinking like anytime this can be over. So I'm like, all right. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to do what these guys are doing. I'm going to take the money. And some of these guys don't even have jobs. They're chilling all day. They're chilling while I'm on the road, busting my ass all day. And I didn't know this until I got close to people that were doing it. And so I took my first property that I brought. It was a 5-unit building. When I first initially got in contact with this, I was trying to sell it. I was first thinking like an agent. I'm thinking 1 through 4. I could use these type of loans to be able to purchase it. This 5-unit building, let me sell it off to someone else. So I had it under contract as the agent. I was going to make some money off of it. Then his bank, it didn't appraise for the price it needed to appraise for. That would scare anyone away. But the investor was super amped about getting, he's like, Gus, I can't believe you found this. With this property is going to work. He's going off. So as soon as the deal ends, I'm thinking to myself, okay, he's telling me it's a good deal. I'm doing the numbers. It's telling me it's a good deal. I'm bouncing it off other investors, not telling them the property, of course, but telling them, with these numbers, is this a good deal? They're like, yeah, you need to go do that. Fuck it. Let's go do it. My first deal is a commercial deal. So the commercial lender I worked with before, as far as representing someone else. So I talked to him about it. He's like, Gus, the numbers on paper looks great. We can make it work.
Wait, hold on. So did the residential appraiser, did they trash the appraisal, but then the commercial lender's like, yeah, this makes sense? Because I know residential appraisals is kind of emotional. It's based on the house up the street. Commercial valuations based on income. Was there a difference in the way they were looked at, or did I miss that?
The client I was representing did a commercial one too, but they did a book appraisal. So when I did mine, when I looked up book appraisal, they didn't even go to the property, whatnot. And I'm trying to fight for him to get it. Like, maybe you guys should go to the property and actually see this. And they already made the decision that it wasn't worth it. All right, cool. I go to my lender. He say it looks good on numbers. I'm insisting when we do the appraisal, you guys are going to go to the property. He's like, yeah, that's how we do our appraisals. So it's a different bank. They went out there, it appraised for the price it needed to appraise. I got my first property.
So your first property was a 5-unit.
Yes.
How did that feel the day you closed? Were you pissing your pants scared, or were you like, hell yeah?
It's like you've been wanting it for so long and so bad. It's finally there. And you're like, wow, I did it. Yeah. And I'm the property manager at the time, because I was like, you let me get my feet wet, be the property manager. I'm selling a bunch of houses at the time. So I closed on this in August of 2020. I didn't even hit. The next year I sold 100 properties as an agent. So I'm extremely busy. I remember the first time there was a problem, something happened with the toilet. They called me over. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I'm coming over. The toilet's overflowing. She's looking at me. I'm looking at her. I'm like, I'm putting my arms up. I'm like, yo, I don't know what to do. So, I knew I had to get those over to the property management. And I kicked myself in the ass today, because I feel like I would have been better if I was able to go ahead and manage these places by myself in the long term, as far as being an investor. Because I put it with a property management. Now I'm learning from behind. As I get their monthly sheets, I'm like, hey, what is this? What is this? What is this? Because I'm not in tune with what's going on. I don't know how the money's working how it comes in and how it's dispersed. I'm only going by another third party of what they're telling me as far as how it's supposed to be ran. So I wasn't able to catch up on that till 7 to 8 months within, owning that property. My management team is great, but you also, as an investor, got to be involved.
I think it's interesting hearing that, because I did manage my own properties at first, but I also was never an agent. So I didn't have these 100 homes I was selling, and I couldn't turn those properties over to property management fast enough. I mean, I managed my own stuff for years, and it was also a toilet that my knuckles are bleeding. It's late at night. It's 10 o'clock, young kids at home, and I had to call a plumber anyway because I didn't know what the hell I was doing. So I definitely got my feet wet managing properties, but I wasn't busy running another business. I'm curious, on that 5-unit, it's interesting because it seems like you understood the advantage of being a real estate investor fairly early on, because you were working with these investors. You were seeing what they were buying these properties for. You were looking at the numbers. You were very interested. I see a lot of, I'm always surprised how many real estate agents are not investors. How many people are involved in real estate transactions and they never make that shift into investor. Now I get it that some people don't want to. But it seems like to me, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you understood the difference at some point between making money and building wealth through buy and hold real estate. You went from, hey, I'm earning this commission, even high volume. I'm doing 100 properties a year, but this guy bought a property that's $2,500 a month in his pocket every month. I do that 10 times. That's $25,000 a month in my pocket every month. I'm just curious, in your mind, when that shifted, you're going, okay, I'm working and hustling and I'm making money, but I can build wealth if I buy and hold. I just want to know, when was that, that aha? Was that slow, or was that time you sat down and you're like, shit, this guy's making $2,500 a month on this purchase, and that's going to be every month forever. And that's not even accounting for principal pay down and rent increases and all that.
So it's two things. One, it was always in the back of my mind. My dad, like I told you guys, he was an entrepreneur. He would work all the time. So school events and stuff, my mom was there, but he was never there. And as a kid, that kind of, it messes with you. As an adult, you'll understand he was out there providing for our family. So not seeing my dad in the audience and stuff like that, where other kids' parents were in the audience, that played a role in that. And the second part is I had a kid. My wife told me I'm pregnant. And I'm like, what? You know what I mean? It went from I'm going berserk as a real estate agent to the money that's coming in. I got to make sure that the future, not only for me and my wife, but our kids are good. And that's when that type of stuff, that type of thinking for long-term things kind of kicked in.
Well, also, if you're selling 170 homes a month, you're making a ton of money, but man, you're trading a lot of hours for dollars. And even we talk about even brain surgeons or, these guys, I know so many guys that make, or women, men and women that are high income earners, but they're still trading hours for dollars, just lots of dollars. And at some point you look at this going, okay, well, do I want time freedom? And I love that Gabe always says that people get into real estate because they want time freedom, but then they ended up having the exact opposite, much less time. And you have a kid, you want to be in the audience, you want to be supporting him or her. I guess the question that I have is, I've met so many realtors that get into real estate to become investors that never, ever, ever make the leap. And I know Gabe was alluding to this question. Why would you say that most don't make the leap? Is it they don't want it bad enough, or they get addicted to the commission checks? Like, we have flippers in our elite group, you know who you are, who can't stop flipping. And again, flipping, you're still trading hours for dollars. And they don't want to parlay that and take the fork in the road and get into more passive income. Why would you say that is? I think it's because they're addicted to the cash and they just can't stop, but maybe I'm wrong.
I think there's some truth to that. And I also don't think they're real entrepreneurs. Because if you're a real entrepreneur, you're looking for multiple ways to make money. You're not just settled on these nice, they're nice checks though. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you. I wish I was getting, a whole bunch of them still, but.
And then you give half to the government and then what's left? Yeah.
That was something I wasn't happy with when I had to make a first large payment. But they're fixated on, this is my job. I come in, I'm a real estate agent, I represent a client, and I get paid. And that's it. And they spend all their monies on vacations and brand new cars and all this other stuff when they're not thinking long term. Anyone who's a real entrepreneur is thinking, okay, if this doesn't work, what's my backup plan? If that doesn't work, what's my backup plan? Like I told you guys before,
we're all a little paranoid, aren't we? We're all just a little paranoid.
You got to be, because you got to be able to adjust to any situation that happened. Because at my office, I'm always talking, hey guys, make sure you're getting real estate. No one's trying to hear that. I end up being the annoying guy that's talking about real estate all the time. So I'm like, screw it, whatever.
It always surprises me, and then it also doesn't. Like, just like you say, Gus, I mean, there's those that are truly entrepreneurial, or they don't want to work for a dollar. And I think our stories parallel in certain aspects. I mean, I know we have followed each other on Instagram for a while now, so you probably know a lot of my story. But, I also had that, oh shit, we're having a kid now. I want to be there for my kids, my family, financial freedom. But what I actually want is time freedom. And I was fully sold on the idea that cash flow real estate would allow that. And I didn't want that hustle, always having to work, whether it was for myself or not. I knew I wanted that time freedom. And so for you, it sounds like it was like, hey, yeah, my dad was providing, but also missed a lot of things. And so it sounds like that was a big motivator as well. Like, hey, I want the money, I want to build wealth, but I want to do it in a way that I can also not just provide, but actually physically be there at the things and those moments that are truly important. So I really appreciate that part of your story.
Yeah, I think a lot of people think you can't have one or the other. You can't build a business and build a huge life without burning 80 hours a week and, sacrificing time with your family. And it sounds like you, again, dude, like there's a common thread with what you're a contrarian thinker. You're like, no, I think there's another way. Or everybody says, don't do Zillow. I'm going to do Zillow. Everybody says, do these traditional things. I'm going to pivot to social media. Everybody says, maybe even your dad. I don't know. Maybe he's like, if you want to build a business and make lots of money and provide an amazing life for your family, you can't be there for the concerts or the sports events and things like that. But again, you're like, how about both? Maybe there's a way for both.
One thing I would say is that was my thinking. In that first building, I put 20% down. So I'm thinking I'll keep buying buildings, putting 20% down until 20% down gets to, you're looking at like, okay, this is catching up now. You know what I mean? So my first floor, I put 20% down. I'm bringing this up because I didn't really get into my strategy of thinking of how to take down deals yet. So that was how I was thinking at the beginning. Hey, I'll just get these buildings. I'm learning from these guys how to buy, multi-units. But then when I started doing BRRRRs, then I did like owner financing. I started really getting into, oh shit, like being a real estate agent is cool. This is a whole different world. Working some of these deals out that I've been able to work where like right now this year, I probably got like 20, 25 sold and I probably got like 3 under contract. That's very low. That's very low for me. But because I've been able to hone on my talent and sharpen my sword as far as an investor, it doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter at this point.
Gus, let's talk about how you scaled. So an important aspect of 0 to 100 is how to scale through cash flow real estate. So a lot of people, they may spend 20 years and then they buy a duplex and they stop, or they save up enough money. And it sounds like you put 20% down on those first 4 deals. But at some point you realize, like, for you to scale, there had to be, another way. And so let's talk about how you scaled, because today you have 60 doors. So you didn't stop at the 5-plex. Like, talk about how you scaled, beyond those first 4 deals.
Yep. So I brought a 5, 3, 3, and a 4 were my first 4. And then your pockets, once again, burr, left and right. So I'm like, okay, so what I need to go ahead and do now is I need to be able to recoup my money. And so one of the first properties I brought was a single family house. I brought it for $70,000. And I brought it and I'm like, okay, I'm done with that part. I brought it correctly. Now you got to rehab it. Oh, okay. So now I'm getting into a whole different world with contractors and all the moving parts with that. Luckily with that one, I ended up I think I was in for like $1,000 or $2,000. So I wasn't like a perfect board, but it was. And that one I cash flow roughly around, depending on the season, $800 to $1,100.
Wait, you're $2,000 in total after refinancing out? You got $2,000 into the deal and you're making $800 a month?
Correct.
Yeah, that's pretty good cash on cash, I'd say. I'd give you $2,000 if you'd give me $800 a month for the rest of my life.
Correct. And that's my first one. And I'm still kicking myself in the butt like, it could have been better if I did.
Yeah, you should have. That's a bad deal, Gus. Shame on you.
I'm kicking myself in the butt like, it could have been better. So I'm still trying to understand it. So don't get me wrong. Maybe like 2-3 more deals, I did 20% down. But within the last 2 to 3 years, I would say it's been all burr. So I've been burring. I burred a 4 unit. I owner finance. Now I call it a mobile home park because it's easier to say, but in actuality, it's 30 acres, 6 different lots. One lot has like 23 acres. The rest have 1 acre a little over 1 acre apiece. They're all near each other. I only had to put $10,000 down. He owner finance the remaining amount of it. So that I took shitty mobile homes, and it's on my Instagram. So they were like 600, 800 he was getting. We put some money into them. First, what we did is we upped the rents when I took over them. We upped it to 1,000.
You said we, who's we, Gus?
Me and my property management team. So it's
okay.
It's not my property management, but who I work along with. So I up all the rents to 1,000. So if you couldn't meet the threshold as 1,000, I knew we're going to evict you and we were going to go ahead and start working on those mobile homes now. So as of right now, I got everything on my board. We're getting 1,650, 1,700, 1,500, 1,600, 1,000, 1,000. So from then, we still have only 2 tenants that are still there. And so we're making a lot of money off of that. And I was only 10,000 into that deal. So I'm like, oh.
What's your positive cash flow on that every month right now?
So as far as my mortgage, I only pay $2,700. That's taxes, insurance, and the mortgage.
It seems like for having $10,000 into the deal, your cash on cash is probably damn near infinite.
I would say it's good, but what I don't want to do, because people who know me will bring it up and they'll be like, well,
no, don't worry about it. You don't have to. You can tell us off the air.
They'll be like, Gus, you said this on the podcast. So I bring in roughly around $8,450
a month.
Yes, sir. Now, remember, these are not parks. If it was a park, I don't think I would be able to make that amount of money. These are mobile homes with the open land on their own lot.
So you're burring, obviously you've discovered that deals are oftentimes made, not found, but you are finding some interesting deals. Would you say that your role in the real estate industry as an agent gives you access to these deals? Because sometimes people listen to the show and they're like, that's great, Gus, but I can't find that deal. Or people find 1,000,001 reasons why they can't do something. Is this because you're in the world of real estate, or are you out looking for deals at night? Are you on LoopNet, Crexy? Are you networking with other brokers? How are you finding these deals?
So I will say yes. At the beginning, I was able to find things on the market, or other agents will let me know ahead of time something's coming on the market. So I would say at the beginning, yes. In the recent years, when deals are not as good on the market anymore, I'm putting boots to the ground and looking for these deals using Deal Machine. Every day, I think the Deal Machine page, because for making that a program, because that's been getting me so many deals. I'm talking to sellers directly who I never would have talked to. I send postcards. So I'm going to be transparent. Every month, I send over 1,000 postcards. My thinking is, with me sending these postcards, these are my soldiers. They're going out. Only thing I need you guys to do is bring me back 1 or 2 opportunities. Let me try to close the deal myself. And so far last year, I think I closed 5 transactions. One of them was a 15 unit. This year I got 3 under contract and I closed 3. So 6 this year. Majority of those have come from Deal Machine. So my hustle has changed from being an agent, being somewhat popular around the area, people giving me opportunities or me getting them off the market to now I'm on the hunt to find these deals. And that's what gives me the courage to tell someone who's brand new, you could do this because I'm doing it this particular way.
Let's talk about this. So like someone that's brand new, I'm curious because I'm sure you've been asked this. You know, you have someone, they're young, they're excited, they want to become a real estate investor and they say, hey, Gus, I want to start investing in real estate. Should I become an agent? What do you say to them?
I tell them yes, but I tell them I give more context to it. I'm going to say you can become a real estate agent. Being a real estate agent, being a mortgage lender, being an inspector, being any of those frontline people, those are entry levels into the game. Because once you get into the game, now you're starting to rub elbows with other people. That, to me, is a part that is not talked about as much. I'm not looking at it as this is the end all be all job and this is how you become an investor. No, this will put you in a position. You're meeting a whole bunch of people that are doing maybe what you want to do, or they may shed light that you don't even want to be an investor. You may want to be a broker of a real estate office. Once you get in, you start talking to different people, then you'll be able to go ahead and determine, what you want to be. But I think it's a good entry level to get into those things.
Well, you also mentioned earlier, and this kind of parlays into that, you were reaching out to people in your office and you wanted to learn the broker game. How can I add value to you? How can I help you? What can I do? And a lot of people don't think that way. They're like, I'm not working for free. You want to pay me money and maybe I'll be your admin. Again, I go back to Kiyosaki. He said, work for free. And we've had I think a common thread on so many guests we've had on this show, you ask them how they got started. And I would say, would you say, Gabe, 80 to 90% of them did exactly that. They go reach out to people and say, how can I help you? How can I provide value to you? And with no expectation except just to be associated with those people, to rub elbows with those people, and to learn through osmosis.
I agree 100%. I mean, I think every guest we've had on, it always comes down to relationships. I say the transactional piece of real estate is the easy piece. Like there's a transactional aspect to real estate, but at the end of the day, it's relationships. And I know I've said this on the podcast so many times, like every deal I can trace back to a conversation or relationship. And it sounds like you could as well, Gus.
Definitely. What I will say to that, if you ever meet like the older guys who've been in the game for a while, even you, Gabe, you've been in the game for quite some time.
Yes, but I'm not old, Gus. So
I didn't mean that.
Be careful.
But because you love the game, when you meet a younger person who's showing that they're ready, they want to move forward, you kind of pour into them, because you could see that they want it bad. And I'm not charging anyone. If I could see that you're willing to do whatever it takes to make it in the game, I have no problem taking time out and being able to talk to you and being able to give that information. So I knew if I showed people early on, this is what I want to do, I'll go up and beyond. Don't worry about paying me. I'm here to build upon that. I knew they were going to give me all the sauce, all the tools, all the tricks that they had to make me better in the long run.
That's such a great point. When I got started in real estate, I knew nobody in real estate, no one in business, nobody with money, but I was so excited about it. And I was surprised. I remember early on, because I was so excited about it, sometimes these were like sellers or potential sellers. Like they saw the excitement I had and wanted to pour into me. They were excited for me. And now today, 20 years later, that is one of the most rewarding things for me is when younger investors are inspired or excited about buying their first deal or replacing their W-2 or doing their first seller finance deal. That fires me up and I love pouring into those people. So I absolutely agree and love that you said that.
Gabe, I wanted to ask you a question. I know this is a podcast about me, but when I hear you, I believe you have 60 million in real estate.
Yes, sir.
I have 7 and I've been in the game for 5 years. And I'm doing everything myself. And I would say the biggest thing that's helped me is lines of credit to be able to do multiple burrs. How do you scale as someone who's ambitious, ready to take over the world if he had the chance to? How do you get to that point?
I'll go back to what I said a few minutes ago. It's all conversations and relationships. And I think it's also the mindset, you've done a lot in 5 years. right? A lot in 5 years. And so 15 years from now, I think the conversation will be much different, but it still comes back to conversations and relationships. Anytime that I've up-leveled my investing, it's just higher level conversations with higher level players. And it's two-part when I think about it. There's the tactical element. Like you talk to somebody who is 1, 2, 10 steps ahead of where you are or want to be. And there's some tactical advice, but I also think there's an energy around it. You get around someone, you say, hey, you have $7 million for the real estate. There's men and women out there that haven't bought their first deal, or maybe they have a $1 million portfolio and they're like, Gus, how do you get $7 million worth of real estate? And so you ask me the same question, like, how do you get $60 million in real estate? It's really the same. Some of it's time, just time in the saddle, but it still goes, getting around people that are 1, 2, 10 steps ahead of you. And a lot of it is just consistency and effort, and then allowing your mind to think beyond wherever it is today. So an example would be like the first year I bought a property 10 units or above, I was obsessed with like 10 units or above, 10 units or above, 10 units or above. And I bought an 11 unit apartment complex like in December of that year, because my mind, my energy, the things I did, like I attracted it, but I also that was my focus in my mind and my activities, like 10 units or above. So how the hell did I buy an 11 unit place? Well, that's where my mind and focus and actions were. And it's the same thing when I bought my first mobile home park. It was like I shut off everything else. I was so focused. My energy, my language, the conversations, the actions were to buy that first mobile home park. And then it's like a second one came, and a third and a fourth, and eventually an 8th and a 9th, right? So I would say the consistency and effort more than anything. And then just like it happens. It just happens. Just like you have a $7 million real estate portfolio today, like you didn't 5 years ago.
I did have one last question for it. Well, two last questions, if you can answer them briefly, because I'm genuinely curious about this. I've also noticed a lot of people on this show that have done really well in investing are really good salespeople. And I always say that sales is a skill that can be, you're not born with it. You can be taught how to sell. Would you agree with that, Gus? Would you say that the skills that you developed in your career as a salesperson, whether it was for Bank of America and then as an agent, has translated over to real estate investing?
100%. Because you're thinking like a person who's looking to get from A to Z. And once you're thinking about each step ahead of time, you're putting yourself in a better position. Well,
yeah. And I always say this, you're selling to maybe an off-market seller. You're selling to a wholesaler that is bringing you deals. You're selling to a bank to lend you the money. It sounds like you might not partner with investors yet, or maybe never, but sometimes you partner with investors, or sometimes you're selling to investors. So what would you recommend people that don't necessarily have sales skills that want to become, because as an entrepreneur, whether you're building a real estate portfolio or not, like you are a salesperson, what's a shortcut that people that are listening to the show can really develop some sales skills to fine tune that part of their toolkit, so to speak?
Okay. I don't have the answers. If I did, I would have like $50 million in real estate. But my thoughts would be the people that are doing what you want to do, get around them and be with them when they're having those discussions. My property manager, he was doing like a $5 million deal. And I was like, hey, do you mind if I go? And he's like, yeah, you could go. I was like, all right, cool. So I'm sitting down at the table. I'm just the guy that's there. And I hear how he's having this conversation where he speaks way better than me. He takes time. He doesn't just blur out stuff. And I noticed some of the things that he was doing. I was like, man, okay, so this is how you got to do your plan of attack. And the key thing after, so I got to see it, then I got to ask him questions. Hey, so when we were at the table, why did you ask this? Why do you ask that? I think that's a good start as far as people who don't have those talents, to be able to see someone who has those talents perform right in front of you and then go back and ask them questions. So I would recommend people to do that.
Hey, Gus, I agree completely. And I think there's also something like hearing you talk, and I think about all our past guests, there are some parallels. Some people have sales experience, some people don't. Like I had no sales experience, but I think of all our guests, and the one thing that I see in you and a lot of our guests, they're just fucking hungry. Like they want it. Like you wanted something and you went for it. Like there was nothing that you let stop you from going after your dreams, your goals, and what you wanted and what you still want. We're all still on that journey. And that's a commonality I see regardless of, we've had people on this podcast, every background from all over the country, all over different upbringing, but they all wanted it. They were hungry and they were all willing to absolutely just fucking go for it. And I see that in you as well.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, well, we live in a country that allows us to start in different starting blocks, like I say, but you could have issues with this country, but I do believe that real estate's a great equalizer and there's a lot of opportunity out there. And I think there's just more and more to come, which leads me to my second to the last question. Gus, what's the end game, man? You seem like the sort of guy that's always like you said, plan A, plan B, plan C. I love that you said maybe this gravy train won't last forever in real estate, because real estate is very cyclical, especially in the brokerage side. My wife's an agent. Like, what are you thinking now? Like, what's the next 5 years looking like? Maybe what's the next 10 years? Like, what are you getting up every day? What keeps you motivated? What's your goals?
So my goal was to have, not that I'm saying it's about doors, but it was, I want to get 100 units. So I'm just kind of still sticking to that. Hey, let me get it to 100 units. And I'm making sure I'm getting there the right way. I'm not just buying whatever comes across my table to say I got 100 doors. However long it takes me, whether it takes me 2 or 5 years, that's my goal. Then after that, I want to get into other things, whether it be businesses, get out of my state, because I invest in my state. I invest in my area. So I'm in a small area. So if I'm doing a good job in my area, what can I do in these other places? So I definitely want to build my foundation with what I have here. And then I want to venture out and see what else is out there. Partners. I stay to myself. I'm an introvert. I don't do any networking events. I want to get out there. I want to meet people, and I want to be put in situations where me and someone else are taking down the $10 million deal. You know what I mean? Eventually, that is the goal. So that's what I see my future getting into. I don't think I'm ever going to stop buying real estate.
And it's not about doors. I mean, obviously we're 0 to 100. So it's fitting that you said that, but it's not really about doors. But I do feel like setting a North Star and setting your sights on something, whatever that metric looks like. Maybe it's passive income, maybe it's doors, maybe it's square feet in self-storage or triple net or whatever that is. I do think like setting a North Star and sort of rowing in that direction is beneficial. So last question for you here, Gus. We ask this of all of our podcast guests. Let's say you lose everything. You lose all the property. You lose all the cash. You lose everything, and you lose your network, which maybe it's not a big deal to you because you're like, dude, I don't network. I don't want to I sit at home and crush it all day long anyway. But you lose your network. The one thing you retain is your experience and your knowledge. And you're on your buddy's couch. We always say he's not very helpful because, he's barely paying the rent. What do you do? What do you get up? That first day you get up, the first hour, the first week, the first month, the first quarter. What are you doing to get back to where you're at and beyond?
I'm calling all the landlords around the area. And what I'm doing is I'm marketing myself as far as being able to go ahead and rent their places out or to property manage their places out. So now I'm getting into something that doesn't really cost money. Now, are they going to hire me to property manage me if I don't have the money to show? No, but if you got the gift, the gab, you may be able to go ahead and create that. So a lot of these things are creating things out of nothing. So I want to be their leasing agent, find places for tenants to move into their place, take the deposit, start building that. Or I want to go ahead and look over, get a percentage of their overall income and build that foundation. Once you get one, I'm not going to say it's easy, but it's easier to get two. And as that continues to stack on, I'm continuing to create passive income each month. So that's how I would start. Then when I get the passive income, I'm starting the dynasty all over again.
Great answer. Gus, it's been an awesome episode, man. I was excited to have you on. Now I know why. And really appreciate you being on the show.
Yeah, man, you're an inspiration. Let's definitely stay in touch. Look forward to meeting you someday in person, although you're on the exact opposite side of the country as us, but we have airplanes, or we don't have airplanes, but we can get on airplanes and fly around. So love to meet up with you in person.